Hello, 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 and welcome back. Oh, I forgot to wave at you. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, back to work. In the last episode, we started our gardens while I rambled on about my method for raising a child and my discipline procedures. Today, I was going to come in here in survival mode and harvest the stuff. Well, I'm going to do it real quick. Let's get all of this out. Make sure I don't have anything in here. Yes, I do. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. All right. And we're going to come up here and we're just going to rob all this stuff. Because we are going to replace this garden. But anyway, as I was saying on the previous video, my son, I told him randomly what a good kid he was. Not because he did something or didn't do something. I just made sure he knew it. All the time. And he really is. He's a really good person. And not just because he's my kid. I'm not just saying that because I'm his mother, believe it or not. I'm saying it because it's true. I don't know how many times he's come home from school in the past and he's a little annoyed because some kid, is bugging him and wanting to be his friend, and he really doesn't like the kid, but he's nice to him anyway because he doesn't want to make him feel bad, and the kid doesn't have many friends. And he's very compassionate. He's really good with children. He has great work ethics. He's not the best about keeping his room clean, but I didn't set a very good example with that. I mean, as a child, when he was little, sure, he kept his room clean because I made him. But as he got older, that's not something I pushed. Because I figure that's his mess. If he wants to live in it, let him live in it. As long as it wasn't causing problems for the household, like mice and bugs and stuff, then I didn't care. I'm not that great on keeping the house clean anyway. I'll let it get cluttered. I try not to let it get dirty. There's a difference between dirty and cluttered. I try not to let it get dirty. But it does tend to get cluttered from time to time. And I have to go in and just do a great big old deep clean everywhere, and then I'm good for a while. Okay. See how some of those turned? We walked on it just enough. Must have been the last straw. Okay, let's make sure. Let's get all of them while we're doing this. Walking in your flower bed. That way we don't have to switch back and forth. Oh, there's another one down here. Now see, at one point... Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. I don't know if you could hear that or not. At one point, the game basically determined the count, the villager count, by just the doors. But I think in one of the updates that changed, and the gardens became a factor as well. So we want to be careful. We've already reworked all the buildings, so we don't want to just go through here and rip out all these gardens. willy-nilly. Of course, if we do mess up the villager count too much, I will just respawn some in, because I am doing this in creative mode. If I was doing this in survival mode, that would not be the case. I would do like one or two things, and then I'd leave the village alone for a couple of days, and then I'd come back and do it in stages so that the game has time to keep up. Alright, I think we got it all. I think we did. So, where should we stash all this stuff? How about the tavern? Can put wheat and wheat seeds in one, and potatoes in one, and carrots in the other. There. Now, if somebody ends up stranded here, they have plenty to eat, or if they need seeds to start their own gardens, they have them. And I won't have to worry about creative mode resources getting mixed in. Okay, so it's creative mode time. All right. I believe these are the next ones to rework. So let's get our stuff. Chiseled stone bricks and stone slabs and torches and water buckets and sand and a hoe. Let's see. That pretty much takes care of the fence, the water. Okay, so probably gonna need grass blocks to fix stuff that I mess up. Alright, we'll start with that. And I don't like the way that goes over the path. So I wonder, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, okay. Let's see how this is going to space out. 1, 2. Yeah, that's fine. 1, 2. 1, 2. That tree is in the way. One, two. No. Yes. And we could do here and here. And that could be the entrance. It's not going to be a big garden, but it'll still be a garden. All right, let's get rid of this water. All right, and let's fix our fence. And you know, you could use wooden fences. That would look just fine. But I'm trying to go away from the norm. And we're going to put the water in right down the center again. And what are we going to plant? How about more carrots? And even if we can keep the rabbits down to a minimum, the villagers are still going to suffocate the crops from time to time, because as you saw in the previous episode, they will just go stand in there and hang out, even when they're not necessarily planting. And the reason that I replaced those blocks with the grass is because with this over the top, it's not going to spread. And I don't want to take the time to wait for it to spread before I put the slabs up. So I went ahead and used my creative mode powers. Alright, we're going to put another one right next to it and make it potatoes. So let's get rid of this. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I was really proud of my son one day. Especially proud. He came home from school one day and he was like kindergarten. And one thing that's heartwarming to a parent is to get the reassurance from their child that they're actually hearing what they're being told, that it's sinking in, they're learning it. And he came home from school. He was either in pre-K or kindergarten. He had to start late because of his birthday. Anyway, he came home one day and he says, "Oh, Mama," and I can't remember what the kid's name is that he was talking about. He says, "Oh, Mama, Jonathan, he just makes bad decisions." I said, "Oh yeah? What kind of bad decisions does Jonathan make?" "Oh, Mama, he upsets the teacher all the time." "Well, that's not very good, is it, Jerry?" "No, Mama." He was just a little bitty fart. But he knew that this Jonathan was not a bad kid. He just made bad decisions. That made me feel awesome. And I was also proud of him, as usual, on another day. I get very upset about racism. To me, it's a horrible thing, and if you're racist, then you're stupid. That's all there is to it. There's no way to say it nicely, because not only are you uneducated, but you obviously have no common sense. Oh, I almost said something dirty. Trying to keep this child friendly. I almost used a really foul word. If you're racist, you're stupid. That's all there is to it. You just are. There's no other way to say it. And I was very careful to raise my son to understand that concept, because to me it is vital. And I was really proud because, you know, a lot of the idiocy that we see in our society is because people don't teach their kids. And then maybe they try to teach their kids, but they don't back it up consistently. Or they tell them, but then they allow them to be fed with stupidity from the internet or the television or whatever. And that's a very important thing to me, and I made sure that my son understood it. Well, again, this is one of those things where I was really proud, and it was a day when I realized that he understood what I had been trying to teach him. But he had been complaining about this little girl at school, that she was getting on his nerves, and she was always wanting to play with him, and she was a real pain in the butt. Of course, we're talking about a 5-year-old little boy here, who's an only child, by the way, and even though his cousins were over all the time, he did enjoy his solitude and not having to share and things like that from time to time. We all need our space. And anyway, he had been telling me about this little girl that was so annoying. She kept following him around all the time. She kept trying to play with his toys, and he just wanted her to leave him alone. And that tickled me, because that's a typical little boy thing. Well, I had to, he was going to a lady's house that took care of him. And he went to her house after school and stuff, because I worked. And I had to pick him up from the after school program one day. And this cute little black girl opened the door for me, and they always called me by my son's name, because even though I told them a million times I got my maiden name back in the divorce, they still called me Mrs. Whoever. And so anyway, that's what she said. She was very polite. Hello, Mrs. So-and-so. And I said, hi, honey. I'm here to get Jerry. She says, he's over there. And there was this black woman sitting at the table, and she smiled, and she was real nice, and she said, oh, you're Jerry's mother. And I said, yes, ma'am. She says, my daughter over there, she just has the biggest crush on him. And I thought that was so cute. And the thing is, he wasn't bothered by her because she was black. He was bothered by her because she was a little girl and he was a little boy, and he didn't like girls. And not once did he say that she was black. It didn't dawn on him. To him, it didn't matter. It wasn't important enough for him to mention it. It was just an annoying little girl being a little girl. And I was proud of that. I was proud of that. It wasn't important enough to mention, which told me that it didn't dawn on him that it would matter, because he knew it didn't. So, yeah, I'm really proud of my son. Really proud of him. He is a good person. Hum, 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 hum. We're not going to do a whole lot of terraforming, but that was going to bug me. Get all this out of here. Okay. Now, we're not going to put another garden here. They were neglecting that anyway. I think it's too far away. And look, they're in the other ones, so they like them already. Let's go ahead and get rid of this one as well. But yeah, you don't want to get me started on racism, because I get all worked up. My second husband looked Chinese because his parents were Chinese. He was born and raised in Australia. So he sounded like the crocodile hunter. He did the whole crikey mate and all that kind of stuff. They actually talk like that. And but he looked like he belonged to some kind of gang from China. And it really flipped people out, because when he started talking to him, he did not sound like they thought he should sound. And of course, me being white and him being obviously Asian, we got a lot of looks. And it really upset him. It really bothered him. And I told him, I said, you know, I can't say, because that's something I've never had to personally deal with. I'm a white female, so it's not like I get discriminated against. Racism is not something I have to deal with personally. So I really don't know what it's like, and I can't even pretend to know what it's like. I'm not about to say, oh, I understand. How could I understand? How in the world could I understand that? There's no way I could understand that. I haven't ever experienced it. I've seen it. A co-worker and I went shopping one day, and she was awesome. I loved her to death. We had so much fun together. She was a little bit wilder than I was. I had a child at home. My party days were long past. I was a mother. I was not in the party girl mode anymore. And she was single and young and beautiful and didn't have any children. And so she was free to do whatever she wanted to do without having to worry. And anyway, she and I went shopping one day after work. And I couldn't figure out why we were being followed all over the store. I really couldn't figure it out. And she noticed them, and she was mumbling something under her breath. I was like, what is going on? And I actually made her mad. She's like, you can't be that stupid. You can't be that naive. And I was like, what have I missed? She said, they're following us because I'm black. And again, I was that naive. I said, what difference does that make? She goes, well, I'm black, so obviously I'm a thief and I'm going to steal something. So they have to follow me so they can catch me. And I was just like, wow, that really happens? And she got mad at me. I offended her. And I wasn't trying to offend her. I really wasn't. But I really did not realize that people were still that stupid this day and age. I thought we had grown as a society. Obviously, I was mistaken. And I really wasn't trying to offend her or make fun of her. I wasn't patronizing her. I really didn't understand. I didn't. That's not something I've ever had to deal with. Now, there was a time when I was shopping in Walmart, and I had this great big purse that was like a great big open purse, looked like a basket with a handle on it, basically, except softer. And I did notice them following me around a time or two, but it looked like something you could easily stuff something in. It was a legitimate concern. If you're a business owner and you see somebody carrying around this big open bag where it would be quite easy to slip tiny little things in there, then yeah, I could see that. But she wasn't doing anything. She wasn't doing anything even remotely suspicious. There really was no reason for them to be following her other than the fact that she was black. And that was a real eye-opener for me. And again, it was something I witnessed, but I've never experienced it. I don't know how it feels. I wouldn't even begin to understand what that's like. But I was shocked because I really did give our society more credit than it deserved, obviously. I thought we were past that, but I'm obviously ignorant because we obviously aren't. And that's really sad. That is very, very sad. I really hate stupidity. There's a difference between being uneducated and being stupid. If you're racist, you're stupid. That's all there is to it. And you know, it's not even like she looked poor or anything. We worked in an office together. We worked for the state, working in probation and parole. She was dressed to the teeth. She looked sharp. She was better dressed than I was. And but that didn't matter. She was black. That really, I just don't understand it. My brain cannot wrap around it. It just doesn't. And my husband, my second husband, he was highly offended because people would just, first of all, they would stare at us, and I really could care less, but it bothered him. And even in Australia, they have this racism apparently because this was not a new thing for him. He experienced this there as well. So apparently they have stupid people in Australia just like we have them here. But anyway, it would flip his switch, and he would just get so angry. And I told him, I said, you have to laugh at him. You've got to laugh at him. You have to feel sorry for people being that stupid. And he was like, you just don't get it. No, I really don't. I'm sorry, I really don't get it. But when I see somebody that stupid, I just shake my head and go, how pathetic are you? But he and I didn't work out. It had nothing to do with the race thing. It had to do with the fact that he was actually using me for a green card. And when he found out he was going to have to work for it, he decided it wasn't worth it. And he went back to Australia and left me in a terrible, terrible, terrible position financially. But live and learn, live and learn. You have to be careful about people you meet, whether they're on the internet or not. But yeah, we met online. Obviously, I don't go hanging out in Australia. We had a great time at first. I thought everything was going to be wonderful. I thought he was the one. Nope. Wrong again. That's alright. It wasn't all bad. We had a lot of fun together for a long time. Well, the marriage didn't last long, but we had been friends for quite a while beforehand, and we had a lot of fun together. And we enjoyed each other a lot when he first got here. It was when it became, you know, vacation time was over and it was time to actually work. That's when everything started changing for the worst, unfortunately. Unfortunately. Alright, I think we need another wheat. And we are close enough to these buildings. Let's start there. Let's make this one kind of big. 2, 2. But you know, at the same time, it really is. It really is stupid. I'm not just saying that. If you're racist, you're just stupid. It's just a fact. It's not even an opinion. It's a fact. But at the same time, you really shouldn't use that as an excuse. I have come across people of other races that will say, oh, well, you're calling me that because I'm a black or whatever. No, I'm calling you that because you're a butthole. Your skin color has nothing to do with it. You're just a butthole. You want equal treatment? Well, if you're a butthole, you're a butthole. It don't matter what color your skin is, or what sex you are, or who you have sex with. I don't care. You're still a butt. Oh, you're racist. No, I'm not. You don't want me to judge you because of your skin. Don't use your skin as an excuse to do stupid crap. Riff was telling me a horrible story the other day about this cop that was at this party, and he was trying to control these teenagers, and the girl that he had was black, and I don't know the whole story, so I'm not going to try to justify or explain anything, but I find it quite sad that we want our police to do their job, but they have a hard time doing anything without being accused of brutality or racism, and some of them are brutal, some of them are racist, and some of them need to be stripped of their badge and have rocks thrown at their heads. But just because things get a little out of hand sometimes, it's not always the officer's fault. And it's not always because of a skin color or a culture thing. Sometimes somebody's just not cooperating and the cop's trying to do his job. Sometimes it is that simple. Not always, but sometimes. People have a tendency to generalize entirely too much. They use words like always and never. Rarely do those terms actually fit the situation. More often than not, they do not. But we don't think about what we say. Too often. Too often we just run our mouths and we don't think about the words we choose, and we don't think about the impressions we're giving. It's like, say you're in Walmart and you're on your cell phone and you're having a private conversation, but you're doing it in public, and maybe you are having a bad day. Oh, good. This is going to be another one with no center. So, let's see. We are quite a ways from the well, aren't we? Yeah, let's go ahead and put a... no. let's see, that. Yeah, let's just do that. And there's already sand in it. Anyway, you never know who's listening to what you're saying. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3. No, we'll go with that. And you just don't. You don't know who's listening. You know, you could be using vulgar language. You could be talking about someone in particular. And 2, 3. What if the person who decides whether or not you get a promotion is the one that's hearing your conversation, and they're hearing how you talk to people? Or maybe the person you're bad-mouthing is on the other side of the aisle. I mean, people all too often do not consider these things when they are in public having these conversations. My biggest problem with that is I get upset at the store and I will lose my temper. Especially if it affects my child. I'll never forget one Christmas. It was like the day after Christmas, and my son had saved up his birthday money. His birthday's in November. He had saved up his birthday money, and he'd saved up his Christmas money. Well, he didn't have to save it very long, but he saved up all of his birthday money for a month and a half and put it with his Christmas money, and wanted to get, I can't remember, it was one of those little handheld PlayStation, like a Game Boy kind of thing. And he was wanting it pretty bad, but we just couldn't afford it, so he saved up for it. And I took him to Walmart. I called around and found one that I knew had them in stock, and we went, and it was like 2 in the morning. Okay, so it's not like they were crowded. The store was relatively empty, and we lived in the city at the time, Oklahoma City, and so anyway, we go back into the electronics department, and he finds what he wants. They have it, it's right there, but of course it's behind a locked glass door. And so I said, you stay here. He was old enough at the time, otherwise I wouldn't have done that. I said, you stay here, I'll go get somebody with a key, because he still had enough money left over, and he was looking at games, and you know how kids do. So anyway, let's see, let's do how many sections do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do wheat on the outside and potatoes and carrots on the inside, maybe. How about that? Anyway, so I go over, and there's this chick. These people are in, the Walmart vests with the little badges and stuff. And she's talking to this guy, and they have a dolly there with a bunch of boxes stacked on it. So obviously they are in the process of restocking. Well, she has the keys hanging off of her belt. So obviously she's the one I need. So I stand there for a minute waiting for them to take a breath, because I didn't want to be rude and interrupt, believe it or not. And she looked at me and he looked at me and they just kept talking like I wasn't even there. Yeah, that didn't go over with me too well. Then they continued to stand there and chat. And I listened to the conversation, and it was not even work related. They were gossiping. So, yeah, I got a little bit hot under the collar. And I said, "Excuse me, I need you to come get something for my son out of a case." And she was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll be with you in a second." And went right back to talking to the guy. And I thought, I am not believing this. Excuse me, I am not believing this. I am standing right here. I'm trying to be patient. I'm trying to be polite. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I want to get it and go home and be done. And they just kept on having their little private conversation. And I thought, okay. So I said, "Excuse me, really need you to come unlock this case so I can get such and such for my child. I can pay for it and go home." And she's like, "All right, I'll be with you in just a second. Wait right here." Well, so she and the guy look at each other and they leave. And I stand there, and I stand there, and I stand there, and I stand there, and I stand there. I'm looking at my watch. And of course, the longer I stand there, the more my blood's boiling. And she doesn't come back. And I go looking, and all they've done is move down a few aisles, and they're standing in the aisle talking again. So, yeah, I got a little ugly. I went over there and I said a few bad things to her that were very unladylike and loud and unprofessional and probably immature as well. And she finally got angry enough that she stopped having her little personal conversation and went and got what we needed. And then we went to the front to check out. And there was a manager in like one of the red vests or whatever. I can't remember what it was at the time. But it was a manager. And I went over there and I said, "By the way, I want to file a report against one of your employees." And I told her exactly what happened. I told her who it was, where she was, what she was doing. And I said, yes, I got loud. Yes, I got vulgar. Yes, I got rude. But that was after I had been ignored for quite some time. And I want to put one more garden in somewhere. I'm not just looking around randomly. And I said, I want something put in her personnel file. I want it noted how she treated a customer. And I'll tell you, I really didn't care who heard me. Did not care. Did not care. Oh my gosh, I was so mad. So mad. And my son was being so patient. You know, it would be different if he was being a brat and throwing a fit and all that kind of stuff. But you know, when there's a child that's more mature than an adult, there's a problem. That is a problem. So yeah, I don't always censor myself when I'm talking in public, but I do try to, as a rule, keep in mind that I'm not the only person in the store. One, two. Let's see. I think this will be the last garden. But you know, you never know. That if are you looking for a job? Are you trying to find work? That person that's listening to you in Walmart could be the person you end up interviewing with. You know? You really should be careful about what you say and where you say it and how you say it. Because you really never know who's listening. And unfortunately, once you make a bad impression on someone, it is difficult, not impossible, but it is difficult to undo it. Sometimes the damage is done and it cannot be undone, depending on the person. And when you leave a job, you want to make sure that you leave on good terms. You want to make sure that you work your notice if it's at all possible. You never know when you're going to need that person as a reference. You never know when things are just going to go crazy and you need that job back. People often, sadly, do not stop and think about the bridges they are burning behind them. And then they think about it and it's too late. It's already burned. And not all bridges can be fixed. Let's see. What are we going to plant here? Let's go with wheat. Let's just go with wheat. We have plenty of carrots and potatoes around. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's do this. We'll put a little extra. Oh no, you know what we need? We need sugar cane. But let's put wheat here for the villagers because they're not going to work the sugar cane. We still need a sugar cane farm. 1, 2. Alright, we'll do this one wheat. Then we'll do a sugar cane farm. I would do a cactus farm, but the problem is, well, we could. We'll just do it on the edge of the, we'll do it on the edge of town. Because, unfortunately, if the cactus is left only 1 block high, the villagers will go stand on it. And in spite of the fact that they're taking damage, they will continue to stand on it and take damage. So unless it's 2 blocks high or more, it's not a good idea to have cactus in a village. And like my dogs, I have dogs all the time. I have dogs now, actually. They're scattered all over the map. 2 of them are sitting in the magic house in our main base. And Riff said he found dogs somewhere. I can't remember where he said he saw some. But they don't always teleport with me, so they get left behind somewhere. I never know. I'll load in somewhere and oh, there's some dogs. And they'll come with me, or sometimes it seems like it triggers it whenever, like if I was at a building site that was rifts and I teleport out and they don't teleport with me, and then he does the teleporting, then sometimes they will, if he teleports in and out of that site, then sometimes it sends some kind of a, flips some kind of a switch, and they'll end up coming to me when they should have originally. Okay, let's look and see what we have so far. We have wheat, potatoes, carrots. We have wheat. We have potatoes and carrots. We have our melons. We have our cocoa beans over there. We have carrots, potatoes. That's quite a few gardens. How many do we have that they'll take care of? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's only 6, 7. Of course, that one's quite large. Kind of think we need one more over here. There are like 4 houses right here. Yeah, let's put in another one right here. Let's get this taken back some. But yeah, we use words like always and never and everyone. And really, you know, if you stop and think about it, that's where the racism, that's a strong basis for prejudice, whether it's according to somebody's race, whether it's their sexual preference, whether it's their income. You know, you have people that are just snobs or reverse snobs. There are some people who are low income and they think all rich people are evil or lazy, and that's not always the case. There are some people out there that are quite wealthy, and maybe they did inherit it, but that doesn't mean that they didn't work and that they don't have any responsibilities. I actually used to be guilty of that. I was really bad about, because I grew up with nothing. I mean, my daddy worked his tail end off, and he did the best he could, and he actually did a pretty good job. But my natural mother was quite talented at spending his money before he could make it. So he had quite a challenge. He had 3 children and her. And so, yeah, it wasn't easy for him. But considering what he had to work with, he did quite amazing, actually. But anyway, I'm going to bring this back. I always believed that people with money look down on people without money, and I believed they were lazy and it was all handed to them, and they didn't know anything about hard work or work ethics and all this kind of stuff. And unfortunately, I was stupid enough to believe that for quite some time. But I got married to my first husband, and at the time, the only person I knew that was wealthy at all was an uncle, and he was one of those people that he could start any kind of business and it would take off and make loads of money. It was like he had the Midas touch. Whether it was a video store, whether it was a gas station, whether it was Western boots, whatever it was, he just had this touch. He just was really skilled at starting and running a business, and he was quite successful. I don't know if I want that to do that. Let's put some of that back. I need regular dirt. But other than him, I really didn't have any experience dealing with people who had money. And yet, somehow, I was an expert on them. And he was quite generous. He was quite generous, especially with his family, but not just his family. He was a very generous man. He made several donations, large donations to churches and all kinds of things. They were always going to one thing or another. He was a very generous man. And, but, you know, he didn't count because he was family. So, anyway, I got married the first time when I was 18. Not something I would recommend, by the way. Anyway, where are we going to put the entrance? Because this I just cleared out all that dirt, and we really need the entrance to be here. Why'd you guys let me do that? Anyway, got married when I was 18, and we were living on love, let me tell you. Definitely living on love. We lived in a little Winnebago camper. You know, the little campers that you take camping for a weekend and you're glad when it's Monday because it was so crowded. That's what we lived in. And he was 6'4". I'm 5'2". I don't take up that much space, but he sure did. Those long legs. Anyway, we lived on nothing. And when I got pregnant with our first child, I told him, I said, I am not having this baby in this camper, so you need to figure something out. We were both going to the Votech and working on the work study program, and we were able to eat thanks to government programs and his family and my family helping us. Without him, we would have starved. But I said, I can't do this. I don't know what we're going to do, but I cannot do this. So I told him, I said, I'll go home and have the baby and live with my daddy till you figure something out. And so anyway, we found a little house that had previously been part of an Air Force base, the Clinton Sherman Air Force Base. They had what used to be base housing was now civilian, and you could rent them. And it was a 2-bedroom house, and it wasn't fancy at all. But compared to where we had been living, it was heaven. I felt like we had moved into a mansion. Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. Oh, it was wonderful. We're just going to leave that tree there. Yes, we are. And oh, I loved it. I loved it so much. And it had wood floors all the way through it. And but it was just a little 2-bedroom house, nothing fancy. But for us, it was nirvana. We loved it so much. Anyway, we had nothing. We had nothing when we moved in. So we were at church. We went to church back then. And there was this couple there that had always been nice to us. And we knew they had a lot of money. But my experience has been that, yes, there are nice people at church. And there are people at church that are quite generous. But I have learned through experience that just because somebody goes to church with you doesn't make them a good person. It doesn't make them a generous person or a kind person. Just because their little tushy warms up a pew on Sunday mornings, you know, maybe they need to be there, but that doesn't mean they're perfect. So anyway, this couple was very kind to us, and his family gave us, you know, secondhand furniture, and my family gave us what they could. And back then my dad was doing a lot of woodwork, and he actually built us a couple of things. He and my mom, the mom I wish I had, not the one I was born with. But so we had a little bit of a hodgepodge, but we still needed a bed. And they gave us a king-size bed. It just so happens that the moment they found out that we still needed a bed, they had just accidentally decided they needed a new bed, and they had nothing to do with their old bed. So would we please do them a favor and take it off their hands? And let me tell you what, that bed was a blast. Because if you know anything about little Winnebago campers, you know that the bed is like a table, you know, the dining room table. You put the little cushions on it. Imagine someone 6'4" sleeping on one of those tables with somebody that's 5'2". There's no room, trust me. When we got in that king size bed, he would lay on one side and I'd lay on the other, and I'd say, "Hello over there. How are you?" And he'd holler back, and I'd say, "I miss you." It took us a long time to get used to having that much room to sleep. Yeah, it's funny to me now. It wasn't funny then. It was, but yeah, they were very kind people. And as I got to know them, I learned how hard they work. And, you know, how often I found out through other people, not them bragging, but I found out through other people that they made a habit of helping on a regular basis. And there were times that they did so to the point that it put them in a bind themselves. And my eyes were opened by that couple. And I realized, you know, I'm so big on anti-racism, but here I am judging someone because of their income. How is that any better? How is that right? You know? So it's the stereotyping that's the problem, whether it's an income thing, whether it's a sex partner thing, whether it's a skin color thing or a culture thing, whether they're country or city or whatever. And not all fat people are fat because they sit around and eat cake all day. Not all blondes are stupid. It's just, you know, it's not always a black and white thing. Sometimes it's other things, and so many of us are guilty, whether we do it intentionally or not, whether we realize it or not. So many of us are so guilty, and we don't even think about it. It's just there, and it does not make it right. It does not make it right. Now, sometimes there's a difference. I mean, I was at Walmart one night and it was freezing. I usually, when I lived in the city, I did most of my Walmart shopping at 2 or 3 in the morning because I didn't want to deal with the crowds. And there were usually fewer people. Not always, it wasn't always empty, but more often than not, I didn't have to deal with large crowds at that time in the morning. Anyway, Jerry and I were going in, and as we're going in, we parked the car, we're walking into Walmart, and there's this woman wearing a really nice winter coat, and it was freezing outside. And her kid had no coat. And he was wearing short sleeve shirt and shorts and tennis shoes and no socks. And maybe she didn't have a coat for him. Maybe there was a situation that I wasn't aware of. But she was wearing a coat. She could have put it on the kid. Stuff like that, I really have no tolerance for. And maybe the kid would have thrown a fit. Maybe the kid didn't want to wear it. Well, she's the adult. He was the child. To me, it was her responsibility to make sure he was dressed warmly. And if that meant she went without her pretty fancy coat, then oh well. But we pass judgment on people all the time, whether we think about it or not, whether we intend to or not. And sometimes we draw conclusions that are accurate. Sometimes we have to draw conclusions because it's a matter of keeping ourselves safe. I mean, we do want to protect ourselves and our families. But at the same time, some of those assumptions are so horribly wrong, and they are based on things that should never be considered. Jay and I broke down. I had this car. Oh my gosh, it was a piece of crap. And it broke down all the time. And I broke down at this convenience store. Not a great neighborhood. We didn't live in a fancy neighborhood. It was a low-income neighborhood. And I had the hood up, I had the hood up on the car, looking at it, because it had broke down so much that sometimes I was able to fix the little things here and there. And I was trying to see if it was something simple that I could just do, like clean the acid off the battery or something with a bottle of Coke. And yeah, that Coca-Cola that you love to drink, and I love to drink, yeah, it'll eat the acid off of a battery. So I don't know what it's doing to your stomach, but it sure is tasty. Anyway, let's see. Let's do the cactus. Right, this is a perfect place for the cactus, right out here. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Anyway, I was frustrated because I was tired. I had worked all day long and I couldn't figure out how to fix the car. I'm going to go ahead and double these up just to make sure nobody comes and gets on top of them. And yeah, I was getting really frustrated, and I was tired, and I was grumpy, and there were these men going in and out of the convenience store, and some of them were dressed, I wouldn't say fancy, but you could tell they worked in an office or something. They were dressed nicely, you know, and they didn't even give me a second glance. And here comes this guy with long scraggly hair, an old faded t-shirt with the sleeves ripped out of it, holes in his jeans, big old clunky dirty boots. Teeth weren't that great, some of them were rotten, and he's the one who stopped. You need some help, miss? Yes, I do, actually. And he had me back on the road in about 2 minutes, and he was one of the nicest people that I had met in a long time. And I'm ashamed to say that I was scared to talk to him at first. I did, because I wasn't going to be rude, and he was trying to be nice. But yeah, I was pretty scared of him initially. I was not looking for a conversation. Alright, let's do... Okay, wait, we're supposed to have like a park and a playground area. So let's do our sugar cane, and then we'll wrap this up. This video has probably gone way too long. And we're going to have room, we're going to need room for livestock, but we can put them around the outer edge. Nobody wants to breathe in cow manure, have it floating through their windows. So yeah, those two areas are out. I really don't want to do a lot of terraforming. How about right here? And this will be nice and pretty. Okay, so let's start off by Let's see. 1, 2. Let's bring this out a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Wow, that turned out just right, didn't it? You always want, and I did say always on purpose, you always, if you plan on doing any trading with the villagers, it is a very good idea to have a sugarcane farm in your village, because you can come out here and harvest you can come out here and harvest the sugarcane and then go trade the paper, and a lot of times by the time you've done that, the sugarcane's already growing back. I think I did this right. Oh my gosh, the cat scared me to death. He came in from outside and leaped onto the back of my chair. Made me jump. Alright, we're just going to do the 3 rows. Let's get our water in. And I am targeting water everywhere. You don't have to do it on every block. If you're doing this in survival mode, do about every other block. It should be fine. And you can fix whatever is goofy. But since I'm in creative mode, I don't have to worry about it. I can just spam it. All right. I almost forgot about the sugar cane. And I know we have some over there as decoration, but that doesn't really constitute a sugar cane farm. You can, as you see, you can plant sugarcane on grass. The trick is it has to be touching a water block. Okay, and then one more over here. Now this, it doesn't matter if you walk on it because it's not farmland. So here's what we're going to do for lighting. We're going to do this. Actually, we're just going to go the 1 block. I'll go take that off. No, let's not do that. We have enough of those. I know what we're going to do. We're going to use jack-o'-lanterns. Yes, we are. We're going to use jack-o'-lanterns. And for those of you who are new and don't know how to make a jack-o'-lantern, you take a pumpkin and a torch, and you have a jack-o'-lantern. And they work quite nicely. Of course, glowstone would be my favorite, but it's a little difficult to come by. Well, it's not really difficult, but you have to go to the nether and blah, 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 and deal with all that nonsense. So we have our sugar cane. We have some gardens. We even have a melon garden. We even have cocoa bean garden, sugar cane, cactus. I think we are good on the gardens. What do you think? And I hope this video has not run over an hour. Alright, before I can start rambling, I'm going to sign off and end this video. The next one we are going to do livestock pens. I know I said lighting was going to be coming up pretty soon, but we're going to do the livestock pens next, and then we'll do lighting, and then the golems will be last. We're also going to put some kind of an entrance, like welcome to Villageville or something. We'll give it a name and do something cool like that. And I still haven't decided whether I want to do walls or not. We may not. So this is expanding. I may have to mow more grass. Oh. But anyway, yeah, I think we're going to do livestock pens next video. And we aren't going to need very many of those because it's just going to basically be big enough for maybe 6 or 8 of each animal. And we'll save the stable for last. I don't even know if we're going to do... Well, we kind of need barns, don't we? Oh, goodness, this is turning into a bigger project than I intended. It's a lot. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, in concept, it sounds really simple, you know. We're just going to change out the blocks, and we're just going to throw in some gardens and add some lights and animals, and it'll all be good. But, you know, you stop and think about it. It's really not as simple as all that. I mean, it is. It just takes time. You have to be willing to put the time in. But I think we're really coming along. I think this is really coming together, and I like the way it's looking. It'll look even better once we get our terraforming in and things like that. I want to put in a little playground and some kind of little miniature waterfall feature, or maybe we can make oh, this one looks to be closer. Maybe we can make some kind of waterfall and have it, you know, feed into the village and make a little pool or something. We'll do something. Something. Yeah, that would actually work. Have a waterfall feed down into a pool right here for the park, and then put a bunch of plants and stuff around it and pretty it up. And then we could have the little swing set and stuff over here in this little corner. Yeah, I like that idea. And we can make it big enough to fish in too. And if we make it deep enough, maybe some squid will spawn in it. Then we'll have squid here. Okay, enough rambling, enough thinking, enough dreaming, enough mental planning. I'm just making the to-do list longer and longer. Thank you very much for sitting through another video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's inspired you, whether things not to do, like, oh my gosh, all that stuff looks clunky, I would never do it like that, or maybe it gives you ideas of things you would like to do. Anyway, if nothing else, hopefully it entertained you, or it gave you something to laugh at. I'm okay with that too. Thank you again for your time, and we will see you later.